and in the space of Agile as started Scrum Master Coach. Yes, now a sort of enterprise Agile coach I'm working. So I thought it's important that whatever I have learned with the help of others, I should also be imparting that. So that's where I'm here. Thanks for Vijay for hosting me and giving me a place, a space for presenting this to everyone. And thanks a lot for everyone to join here. So, as I said, uh, Agile coach is a terminology I would say normally that whoever has Aadhaar card is in India is now termed as an Agile coach. But uh, we really understand what is this, what are the different layers of coaching, what are the different layers of Agile coach we have, team coach, Agile coach, enterprise coach. We keep hearing about this. So let's just go through this, understand. And today's topic of discussion, we are trying to understand um, what is enterprise agile coaching, how do we help the enterprise to move to agility, what are the skills and competencies needed for a agile enterprise agile coach, and where do we stand as a coach, and then what are the challenges we see, and let's try to get into the domains of coaching and what and how you can become. I have something specific for you today to know where do you stand as an agile coach, enterprise agile coach. So let's start the journey for that. All are okay? Set?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my first, I would like to invite you to a mentee.com. So I'll just give you the mentee code.
Is that a link that you're sharing in chat?
Yes. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we try to understand let's try to understand what is agile enterprise coaching. Enterprise coaching is that discipline. It includes management consulting, looking at organization structures, organization policies, ensuring business agility across the organization, and also helping designing process structures, the entire organization design, connecting all department. An enterprise agile coach, if you look at the different levels of coaching, we almost know that we have team coach who facilitates practice and collaborates across various frameworks or one or two frameworks to one or more teams. Whereas agile coach, we talk about mentors, coaches, the teams, including the mid-level managers or the department heads or whoever. But when you go to the enterprise coach, it's not just coaching to the team, it is coaching the leadership, coaching the leadership to coach the people, to coach the developers, the team across. So it's like developing people. Okay, an enterprise coach itself is an agile leader, so he or she should have that capability, that competency to see that you are able to take the organization from one state to another state, understand the organization relationships, understand organization system, understand organization process and practices, the culture, the fabric, the social fabric of the organization, and try to elevate the organization and the people to achieve that desired state, right? So it's a catalyst of change. It's a role for I would say transitioning organization from A to B, or from a current state to a desired state, and it just doesn't end. It moves on, continual improvement, right? So it includes a lot of disciplines. We will see what are the domains coming in, but as I said earlier, it includes management consulting, it includes leadership coaching, it understands the knowledge of the framework or the business acumen that you need. Also, you need to have that compassion, empathy, all that skills needed for us to achieve, help the organization to move to the next level. So let's see what are the competency of an agile coach or an agile coaching competency. And this is most of the people I'm sure would be knowing about the Lisa Atkins agile competency framework. But let me tell you a few important aspects over here. As I said, we need to, as an enterprise coach, we need to possess easy very many skills, but can we achieve all the skills? Can we look for where we have to improve, what we have to improve? Let's look at the each of the quadrant in the agile competency framework. We all know about coaching, which is nothing but helping or partnering with the clients to achieve their fullest potential or achieve what they are aiming for, helping and developing the people to achieve their fullest potential. And this not me defining, it's ICF defining. I just made it in a gist of for you to understand. And facilitating is different from coaching because facilitation is nothing but you are guiding a kind of solution. So you will have to coach at times, you will have to facilitate at times. And what is mentoring? Mentoring, how mentoring is different from coaching? A mentor could be an expert in a particular field. So he or she has to share that knowledge so that the team, the organization move to achieve that skill. And teaching, you may have to teach agile principles, lean principles. So it involves all these four important quadrants of how you behave in different contexts and what you need for that. You first and foremost need to have an lean agile practitioner mindset. A lean agile practicing mindset, apply lean practices, look for economies of scale in every aspect that you do, right? The least but achieve the maximum. Apply different practices of agile. And you would have heard about some coaches who would be focusing on the technical areas like DevOps or the programming side or whatever. So that is, some people would of course achieve the technical mastery. And as an enterprise coach, you need not have to be an expert, but you should understand little bit at least about how the things have is working. If you take the DevOps as an example, how a continuous integration pipeline or how a continuous delivery pipeline works, you at least should have that knowledge about as an enterprise coach. Of course, business mastery, whatever we are doing for organization to sustain and be relevant in the market, and you also need to understand what business the organization into, how can you improve or um, improve their business value by looking for a creative organization, an outstanding organization in terms of product or whatever services they are into offering. So understand the domain of the business, understand how the organization can achieve value. And last but not the least, an enterprise agile coach should have that transformation expertise to understand and deal with the challenges and overcome the challenges and help organization and the leaders to achieve that goal or that objective they are looking at and be a change catalyst for that across. And you need to possess various skills for this, right? And then what are the skills needed for an enterprise coach? Can you just think about few of the skills? Any few? Can anyone throw any thoughts? The first and foremost skill for an agile coach or any coach.
Understanding people.
Yes.
Listening.
Yeah.
Yes. Laser listening.
Listening.
That's
Yeah.
very important, right? Any other thoughts?
Tariro is saying it's observation.
Observing. What do you mean by laser listening? You just don't listen. Most of the time what happens is like when someone is talking, what we feel, we would be thinking, oh, I didn't switch off that light, I haven't switched on that fan, or something other, I have a message in my WhatsApp, I need to look into that message. So we keep distracted with various other things. In
Wait.
laser listening is nothing but you not only listen to the person, also understand the emotion, the feeling, the body language the person has. So you try to understand, as Vijay was talking about, the person and his emotions, so that you are able to empathize with the person and the context which the person is into, right? So that's very important. Thank you for that.
Uh,
Empathy.
yeah, there are people in the chat. Yeah, Renin is saying listening and probing. Tariro
Yes,
said observation.
of course.
Anant is saying encourage roles towards the organization goals.
Yes. How do you do
And
that?
yeah, and Ravi says facilitator, servant leader, active listening.
Yes, active listening. For active listening, you should have empathy. You should be able to understand that person and understand the person as a whole. And then what else? Apart from empathy and listening, there are quite a lot. You need to be compassionate to the person. And many a time we learn, I have also gone through this, all these problems. I have failed many times, not not able to understand the person, not able to understand the leader what they are telling, because I come from a background which I have learned the Scrum, the whatever scaled agile or framework, I have come learned that framework. In my mind entire thing is the framework. The before the person tells something, I think about that framework. Yeah, this framework has got, you have to do this. Either I get into an advising mode, or what happens is like I try to push my agenda. That brings a resistance, because the organization leaders, you cannot, they have come to that level with a lot of experience, lot of learnings. We are not able to understand them. Many a time, I have heard everybody talking about leadership is a problem in the organization. But as a coach, I don't agree with that part, because how much we have understood the leadership, from what context they are talking about, why they are resisting you. There is something behind it. Have we tried to understand that? Have we tried to align the leadership? So for all these things which you need to understand, we normally what we do, we try to push our agenda. When you try to push something to someone who already have some thought or in a position, of course leadership edges are there, like ego and other thing, just leave that part. That person would be trying to push you back. That is where the resistance happens in coaching. Instead, try to understand them. Try to be empathetical with them. Try to be compassionate. Try to understand from what perspective he is telling. You also need to have patience. At the same time, agile coaches not to be to be assertive, not to be aggressive. To understand, we really need to understand what is assertiveness and aggressiveness. Many a time we tend to fall to that aggression. Hey, nothing is happening over here. Yes, we understand that nothing is happening, but what have we done? We are also part of the system, right? So understand the system. So as an agile enterprise agile coach, you also need to understand how the system is working. You need to have that lean practitioner, as I said, systems thinking. How do you how do you understand the concept? How do you see, how do you read the relationship within the organization of systems, practices, people, etc.? We really need to understand that. And from there only, you can coach the leader, the team, or even the system itself. You need to have a problem solving mentality. Today, a while ago, I heard a beautiful presentation on problem solving. There was a question the trainer asked. It's one of the great coach. I'm not sure he is there or not. His name is Manjunath Rao. He was asking a small question to everyone. I don't know to make a coffee. It was in a very morning. It was so cold. I wanted to make a coffee. Can you tell me how do I make a coffee? How do I make a good coffee? That was a question. Everybody started pouring in answers to him, saying that boil milk, 1 spoon of coffee powder, so much of milk, everything. But nobody tried to understand what persona Manjunath is and from why he is telling that. We didn't try to connect. So that problem solving attitude is not providing solution rather than understanding the problem, right? That's very important. Change management, you really need to understand architecture the changes. How do you do that? Right? You need to have tools and techniques for that. What tools and techniques you would use? Communication. An enterprise coach have to communicate with the topmost leadership CXOs of the organization to the bottom level of the team. That's one person or people who span across the organization wide in terms of communication, right? It's very important that how you communicate. The way you communicate to the CXO, the way you communicate to the sponsor is different from the way you communicate to the team. The way you communicate to your team of teams or your steering committee or whatever you have, right? So communication is very important aspect. Interpersonal skills. How do we create the relationship at all levels to make that influence and impact? And I've heard about people talking about even when any meeting, because in my own organization, some of the coaches I have heard, um, when we have we used to say that Agile 2.0 because we coach the directors and the leaders and they coach the people. So when we coach them, when we set up the meetings and things like that, sometimes the directors not coming or people not attending the boot camps. We keep complaining about it. I have heard people complaining about, hey, attendance is very poor. But have you thought about why that attendance is poor? What are we communicating to them? Do we have anything to inspire for them in our communication? Then only they will engage. What is in it for me? Everybody will think about it, including leadership. How am I going to, when you talk about change, everyone is worried about the position, the roles they are into. It's a very big aspect or culture in the organization. You should understand that and then try to align with that. It doesn't mean that the coach have to completely change, but coach should understand all these aspects to design or architecture your change. Engage leadership, stakeholders. How do we manage the stakeholders we have? Which stakeholders need to be informed? Which stakeholders we need to have always together with us? We need to categorize the stakeholders in different way. Who needs to be informed? Who are supporting us? Who are slightly jerky? So how do we give them the attend? How do we keep them engaged? We need to understand that. Execution excellence. How do we govern the whole change management process? Right? Last but not the least, the business acumen. End of the day, everything we do is for the organization and for the business to be relevant, right, in the market. Any doubts over here?
No
I'm seeing
doubts. Yeah, no doubts. But yeah, you're reading that.
Janet talking about encourage, empower, and experiment. Beautiful. I like that. Motivation, training, enabling training. Yeah, I think rest of the things already Vijay has read. So can I move
Ma'am,
on?
I have one question here.
Yes,
Should the coach have emotional intelligence?
of course.
Okay, thank
It is to be at the high. A coach should always have the emotional intelligence at the very high level. You need to understand the situation. A coach needs to be self-aware how you are impacting the entire organization and the people by your words, by your deeds, by your actions, by your behavior, by your body language, everything. You need to be self-aware, you need to be socially aware, you need to understand the relationship management, everything that talks about an EI. A coach should have, definitely. Thanks for bringing that good point.
thank you.
Now, let's look at, now that we have understood the skill, why do organization change? Or you are seeing a picture over here. It's a picture of a city. In the city, you can see the explosion of buildings or people. So when the population increases, what happens to a city? The city which I am into, I have witnessed it because first I came to Bangalore in India as an OJT in IBM. And later when I came for my work, I could see the drastic difference in the city. Just think about, what do you feel? What happens? What's the impact when a population increase in the city? What should the government or the local bodies do? What should they be prepared about? Any thoughts? Natural resources? Yes.
Demand and supply.
Demand and supply? Yes. When a city population grows, you need to have that many resources. Yes, use of resources. What all? You need to manage the waste management. You need to take the census. You need to have that many shops and buildings. You need to have road and infrastructures available. You need to have utilities, water, electricity, everything to be available for the people. We all know that what pandemic situation we are into, but how do we im- how do we reach at every nook and corner of the city to have that impact? We know how difficult it is to bring the change in an organization. Think about the city itself, it is so difficult. But we don't understand. We keep, yes, there are problems with organizations and things like that, but level of impact is uh, very large. Yes, city boundaries increase, right? So think about now that you have understood just about a city when increase, what are the problem? What happened to the organization if it grows and if it want to achieve the business agility? Yes, optimum management of available resources. Thank you all. You are all amazing participants. I'm giving nice suggestions, nice input. I'm so happy to see that. So just think about, if an organization scales to this level, how do we achieve the business agility at organization? Thanks, Renan. Planners in place. Yes. How does an organization can achieve business agility? When you talk about enterprise level, is it development team or a product line to be agile? Is it easy? Is just that or something else? Change the thinking process of management, top-down approach, top to bottom approach. Yes, both is needed. Top down, the vision has to come from the top. And the communication or the challenges the team faces have to go from bottom. Creating a responsive environment. What do you mean by that? Can you just explore a little more on that, Priyanka? Creative, responsive, creating a responsive environment.
Yeah, so if we are changing the mindsets and behaviors of the business teams, so the organization should itself also adapt it first. So at management level and all levels, so it should be the change should be at org level, right? It cannot be only from project or from team members.
Just imagine when this pandemic has happened, we all started working from home. What changes in you have you noticed in the organization's way of working? People are people are joining, shifting organizations, quitting organization, joining new companies. All this, those are happening. At least in IT world, I can understand that. But how this is happening? Infrastructure team, they are found out new way of delivering the laptops. Swiggy delivering laptops. I've heard that, right? You're earlier you need to fill everything. You're now everything has moved to digital, right? So a lot of changes. Have you ever thought about that we will be hooked on to Zoom so much from morning to evening for various calls? Just imagine the architectural stability of Zoom. It's we are now here around 33 people, but look up, just imagine similarly thousands of Zoom meetings are happening at this point of time. What should be the level of the stability of their platform? What should be the privacy of their cloud infrastructure? So all these changes happens not just technologically, at every level organization has to change to the market conditions, and that's beautifully we have seen in our life during this pandemic, how changes are happening, right? So people with agile mindset, changing culture. Thanks, Ravi. Archana, culture of organization. Yes, agility is a state of mind, channelized communication management, remote working infrastructure, geographically distributed team, instant digitalization in numerous areas. Exactly, exactly. It's we talked about in agile that face-to-face team has to sit together. Now what is happening? Distributed team. We are now isolated team, right? We are isolated in our own areas, our own home. But how do we still bring that team bonding, right? So a lot of things are there in terms of business agility at organization level to look at. And organization, every department, if anybody getting recruited for any change, you just imagine not only the team, the technology team or the development team, their managers, the HR, the finance, the infrastructure, the leadership, everyone has to mm, have that change. And not just that, the way of their functioning, even their outcomes and outputs also changing now, right? The way finance is working, the finance is budgeting, everything has to change. Everything has to change in a agile way so that you can inspect and adapt for continuous scaling. We cannot have a fixed rigid plan now, and that's obvious, because organizations could have had a lot of planning before March 2020, before the pandemic hit across the world. What happened to all those plans? They had to really revisit and change. So we as enterprise coach enable the organization to bring that agility, work across department, across silos, cross boundary, a kind of cohesion, a collaboration across organization we have to bring, right? Thanks, Ravi, for the suggestion. So moving on to the next, what is the difference between an agile coach and enterprise coach? Let me take you to the mentee. I'll just Just give me a second. I'm just initiating the next question. So let's, having understood what is the impact, what is the business agility, what are the scales, I just want you to look at what is the difference. You just think about the difference in uh, enterprise agile coaching, right? I hope you are able to see. Just start. You have mentioned it. Focus on coaching Scrum Masters, mid-level managers, and teams, whereas Enterprise Agile Coach focus on coaching executives, directors, VPs, etc. And it also includes strategic and tactical planning, whereas Agile Coach mostly focus on tactical, whereas Enterprise Agile Coach have to be both strategic and tactical. Planning need to be looked, because he or she has to be involved with designing the organization architecture itself, right? So work towards cross-team collaboration, participation participates in organizational change management, whereas enterprise agile coach work towards business agility at organization and leads organizational culture, mindset, and architecture change management. Agile coach facilitates big room planning, etc., PI planning, etc. Facilitates org level events, whereas enterprise agile coach executive workshop. If you have to align the entire CXOs and the directors of the organization, you need to have some kind of events like Y workshop or something like that to ensure that they are aligned. That's a very important aspect of any organizational enterprise coach, organizational alignment. Align and coordinate scrum masters and teams and mid-level managers, whereas an agile coach focus on agile adoption or framework adoption, whereas enterprise agile coach align and facilitates executive leadership and the teams at organization level. Focus on transition and transformation. Transitioning organization from A to B, from current state to future state, and also transforming the mindset and the culture. Because we saw one of our participant already answered that culture is important. Culture can bring various hindrances in our enterprise agile journey, right? So let's look at what challenges you would have faced. I will just initiate another Menti for you for a moment. Just hold on for a second. I'll just give you the new Menti code in any organization, right? So for that matter, it's very important that we need to coach the leaders. An enterprise agile coach, as we saw the skills, we need to have multitude of techniques and tools. How do we handle this change? How do we handle influence the leadership? How do we influence the change across the team? And as you really brought it off, fear of failure, fear of losing authority, fear of losing even job, learning new things, changing my way of working, all these are big problems we have seen across organizations, right? So thank you for that input. So how do we tackle those? So every change, it cannot happen just in a nick of the moment or an overnight. So it needs a time, it needs a plan, it needs a frequent adaptation of the change. You really have to change your journey. You may start from one place, but you still will have to change your approach, keep on changing your approach. You remember we talked about execution excellence, and this is very important over there. How do we approach our change management? We would first understand where we are standing and then try to understand the point B, where which the destination or the future direction we want to go. And then you need to unfreeze all the systems and all those rigidities that we have in the organization, and then try to slowly embrace the change, and from time to time adapt our approach, change our approach, and then move towards the level which we want to achieve, or the objective, or the state which we want to achieve, and then relook at what changes we have done, celebrate those successes, and then once we have reached the destination, uh, take a freeze over there, because we need to sustain the change for a time, and then from there again look at the next level you have to go. And then again, as we know that this is an empirical cycle, we frequently inspect and adapt, and we just don't go from A to B just like that shooting star. We know our north star is there, but we go a step by step approach. And if that step by step approach only, frequent inspection and adaptation will only bring us success to reach the goal. There are organizations who are doing 4-year continuous never ending changes in the organization, people mindset, organization change, structures change. We don't make a change everything. Whatever we have seen as the challenges, it's just because the way we are changing approach, we have decided something. Though we talk about agile scrum, we as coach, we think that it is only for the teams to follow or for the organization to follow. We as agile coaches and enterprise agile coaches have to inspect and adapt our approach and see how we can change that. The plan we put also need to change. It's not a fixed plan, right? We cannot have everything fixed. So that mindset, so that is what Levin's model talk about: freeze, change, and unfreeze, change, and freeze again, unfreeze, change, and freeze. We have to go through this cycle multitude of times to reach our destination, and we really need patience for this. At the same time, we said that we have to be aggressive for doing that also, right? So we know that as the picture says, elephant is not tied by the rope. It is the belief that makes the elephant holds there where he or she is, right? So the important over here is the mindset is the important factor. How do we influence the mindset? And as an enterprise coach, you really have to look at systemic issues and the cultural barriers, leadership engagement to happen, so that the change at the bottom level is so smooth and it's not jerky, right? So I'm going to the next slide. Let's look at what are the domains an enterprise agile coach have to look at. Of course, culture we talked about, organization structure. The current structure may not be supporting the change. We may have to change the structure not once, multiple times. And remember, as I said, we always have to go for a empirical approach over here. Processes and practices we may have to re-adopt. Business goals have to change. Technical practice that we do have to change. The leadership maturity have to come. A readiness of the team have to, and the entire organization have to improve. And we also look at how the business alignment and agility. These are the 8 domains that enterprise agile coach will have to look at. Now, we talked about all these things. Where do we stand? I have some tool for you, right? We need to know the organization, which organization we are going, what is the current state of the organization, and how are we going to approach that. That is organization one side. But what about ourselves? Are we ready for a enterprise coach level? How do we know about that we are ready? Know ourselves. Where are we standing? So I have some important, a small tool for you to check where are we standing, how do we go, right? So let me help you again with a new mentee code. So this is something called Agile Growth Wheel. Let's look at where are we standing on that growth wheel and then try to understand. We explained, remember, in the Agile competency framework, when we explained each of these areas, we explained. So let us see where are we standing at this level for this growth wheel. I'm just helping you with a new mentee code. Take a 2-minute time. It's and then try to uh, rate yourself. Where do we stand as a person on each of these practices or on the competency? from beginner to innovator, right? Innovating new practices, innovating, adapting practices from beginner, you are a practitioner, you are a journey, you are able to individually craft the organizational change and you being an innovator. So just have a look at and then try to rate yourself. Take a 2 minute time, go to menti.com and please put the code 58. Yeah. So many of us see that we have to go a long way. So yes. So how do we achieve this? On various scales, we are going at various level, right? I think all of you have completed. Nice to see that many areas we are more than three, serving team, facilitating, agile lean practitioner. Okay. So now that we understand where do we stand, how do we improve ourselves? We now know that on these areas where are our gap. So really I would request you all to work towards a plan that you have now understood where you are standing on an average. Work towards a plan so that you can achieve, you can cross that barrier. Crossing the, it is just like a crossing the chasm, right? So you try to achieve that chasm and move your bars to high and see that were to become an enterprise level coach, to impact the organization, to influence the organization, to influence the people and the mindset for making that changes. We have various tools, we have various practices, we have a lot of things available in the market, we have a lot of things, trainings, we have a lot of certifications, etc. available. So try to figure out what you can do, from where you can do, which level you want to improve, is it which area you have to focus on. Try to look at from 1 to 5 where are you in each of these area, and then try to see that where you can go and have a plan for you to look at. And we also have something for you for that, right? So we also have some specialized courses or mechanism for us. And interestingly, these two courses what we have developed is from uh, experienced enterprise agile coaches, and not from any market oriented jargons or kind of methodologies that you see, but this is all our experience, what we have implemented where we have failed. From that experience we have tried to come up with unique real time case studies where we have implemented, and we have designed this course to help people to understand. We have a boot camp also, and unlike all other people, we are not just living up for a certification and living. We really want you to achieve to that level and get the mentoring and coaching done for you, so that there is a continued mentorship and coaching support, and also an assistance for real good coaches for job openings. So Vijay has already put in the link for you to look at. So this is the unique thing which we are looking, because it's not just certification, we are supporting further for your mentoring and coaching and achieving that level, and also assistance for your job openings. If
Vijay, I have a question here.
yes,
When I started my coaching journey way back, I actually gradually went from team to enterprise level coaching. Unfortunately, there were no courses or these kind of boot camps were there. So what are you actually going to teach in this for the help of people? Are you going to
Yes.
teach tools, the mentality, how do we rate the organization, how do we go? There are strategies or something like that. What does that
Yes,
cover?
definitely. Yes, definitely. So there are few areas we are looking for these programs, like how can we develop a real architecture a change? How can we develop a plan, a canvas for the change? And what kind of models? Because enterprise coach, uh, we cannot go with a single model or a single framework or whatever, because organizations, social fabric is always different, right? So we need to look at that, and how do we adopt various models and design our approach. And as I said, how do we assess the organization on time to time, and how do we take that feedback and go further? How do we coach the leadership? How do we influence the organization? It's everybody talk about cultural change, but nobody really understands how do we make that impact of culture. How do we bring that behavioral change within the organization? These are all we have tried to do in our own areas. Many were we failed and learned. Many we adopted based on our learnings. So that's what we have designed over here. And what kind of communications? Of course, there are talking about tool, and where do you mentor? How do you bring that changes? How can we overall design that change? Even if you have to change the organizational structure, and what and why and when you have to do that structural changes, how it can feed the organizational transformation. And as a coach, how I improve as to this level. This is a complete package, Vijay, completely for this. Actually, if you look at it, it's touching upon self improvement and taking that improvement to the next level to the organization. And I have personally gone through this, mine, and I have done various leadership, uh, I would say many leadership certifications I have tried to do, but this really helped me. So that's where we have that approach we have brought in over here.
And one more question is, most of the times I don't really like these typical certifications wherein you just go for 1 day, 2 day kind of, and then you get a certificate, give an exam. I don't really get that experience. I don't really get that a journey kind of this thing. So
Yes.
how is that different that we have actually
So
done
what
it
we
here?
are trying to do is, like, it's not just first of all, we are having both boot camp and individual we have designed, but plus what we are trying to do is like a continued support, a follow-up support for their coaching and mentoring to achieve and overcome their challenges. The people who undergo these program, their challenges, so that they can implement for their different organization context, and even elevating their self-awareness, helping, for example, we talk about leadership edges. How can I overcome the leadership edges? Not just for me, how can I coach my leaders to overcome that leadership edges, right? So those level of mentoring and coaching we are trying to provide continuous for a period of time, so that the team really, it's not just a certification. Beyond that, something is there. And I know many people who have taken a lot of certification but zero implementation example. That's not what we are looking at. We are looking at people to take it and implement it and see the fruit of what we are trying to help them out.